I'll be reading this morning from Proverbs chapter 1, starting verse 20. Wisdom calls aloud in the street. She raises her voice in the public squares, and at the head of the noisy street she cries out. In the gateways of the city she makes her speech. How long will you simple ones love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery? And fools hate knowledge. If you had responded to my rebuke, I would have poured out my heart on you, and made my thoughts known to you. But since you rejected me when I called, and no one gave heed when I stretched out my hand, since you ignored all my advice and would not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh at your disaster. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you, then they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but they will not find me. Since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice and spurn my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be in ease without fear or harm. Lord, we thank you for the day that you've given us, and any blessings. We thank you at this time for your word and the opportunity to study it. Guide us in all truth. All right, continuing our study, books of poetry. We're looking at Psalms. Now we're going to move into Proverbs today. Last week we talked about God's knowledge of man. Some of the things we got out of it was that God knows us better than we know ourselves. He knows my words before they even come out of my mouth. Before I even know what I'm going to say, He knows them. He is omniscient. No one can escape from His presence. Wherever we are, wherever we go, He's always there. We can't even hide from Him under the cover of darkness like sinful man tries to do. He is omnipresent. We were fearfully and wonderfully made. Physical body, made in the womb, in such a way that it's hard. We can't even recreate it. We can't make it happen. It's a machine or whatever you want to call it. God did it so unique. His eyes saw our unformed body. He saw our spirit before it was ever placed in the body. He knew who we were before we were ever placed in the fetus in the womb. He is omnipotent. And we went from there to the New Testament, Romans, where it tells us that since the creation, God's invisible qualities are clearly seen. There's no debate. It's just a matter of whether we're going to look or ignore. What can be known about God? Anything that can be known, we can't understand it all, but what we can know, it's clearly seen. It's laid there for us to see. However, man's heart has become darkened and full of futile thinking. And that's kind of a key. We're going to bounce off that there. Jump on that today. Full of futile thinking, the way we think, worthless, wasteful thinking that's illogical in God's view. God, however, gave us the gospel, which has the power to save. So in spite of all that, God's still on our side. Today we're going to look at man's thinking. We're going to look at wisdom. The first thing we often jump to is knowledge. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. What's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? What is knowledge? Knowledge is what we know. It's information. We go to school, we study, we read the paper, we walk around and see and touch and feel. It's information. Things we know. What is wisdom? Gift from God.
Being able to apply that knowledge to help us with our daily life.
Be able to take the knowledge and do something with it. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to help you or it's going to hurt you, because there are different types of wisdom. That's one of the things we want to look at today. There are different types of wisdom. But it is how you take the knowledge and use it. That's what wisdom is. It's more than just the actual facts. It's the application part of it. So when we start looking at the voice of wisdom, which is what we're going to look at today, we're We're going to be talking really about chapter 1, but we're also talking about chapter 7 and 8 because they're very closely related. So those of you that study probably intuitively jump to those two chapters since he didn't reference it. Right? It does. Anyway, the thing we want to look at today has to do with wisdom. And we're going to talk about it in a way that is talking about personified. What is wisdom? What does personified mean? Okay? What's the word? What's the root word? Personified. Basically, it makes it into a person so that you can see a concept or an idea by looking at the human or a person and say, oh, that makes sense. And so that's what Solomon does in Proverbs is he tries to make wisdom into a person or this kind of a person so that you can see, oh, okay, I understand that. Maybe help us understand. Kind of like any other metaphors and other fancy English terms for things that look alike, similes and those kind of things. But it's basically, it's to do that same kind of thing by making it look like an individual. All right? So as we do that, we want to look at two things. The wisdom of God versus the wisdom of man. Because that's basically the two types of wisdom out there. Everything falls in one of those two categories. Every kind of applied knowledge, I think was the term Butch used, applied, is going to fall into one of these two different groups. So the first thing we want to look at here is this, the wisdom of God. All right? In the readings we said, he starts talking about wisdom calls aloud. Well, and where it calls aloud in the street, like a person would. Well, it's more than that. If you go to chapters 8, you will find that wisdom is portrayed as a woman. Okay? As a woman who's trying to tell you something. As a matter of fact, if you go through the entire book of Proverbs, you'll see that God, Solomon, talks about wisdom, the wisdom of God, in relationship to a what kind of woman? What? Wisdom of God is a bad woman? Like a what kind of woman? Let me give you a hint. Yeah, go to the last chapter. A virtuous woman. Okay? Wisdom is compared to that. Okay? Wisdom of God is compared to a virtuous woman. A virtuous woman. And it goes on and describes in chapter 8 that she tell a lie. Oh, she's always speaking the truth. How does she work? What does she do? She's always busy. She's never idle. She's always busy. She's industrious. She's hardworking. She's productive. That's what God's wisdom is like. She is one who sells what she has out in the marketplace or in the streets. Here it talks about, right here in the verse we're going to look at, chapter 1, the very first verse, talks about her being in the marketplace, calling out and talking about this truth. The virtuous woman is described at the end. It's talking about her selling the things that she makes in the marketplace. So we see God's wisdom portrayed just like that virtuous woman. A lot of times we think about that, and we always hear that lesson on what day? Mother's Day. You know? Well, it does apply to mothers, but Solomon was not specifically talking about mothers. Solomon was talking about wisdom. The wisdom of following after what God had to say. That's what he said. Which includes taking a woman or a wife that is like that particular person. Okay? So, when we look at that, most of the time we get that other lesson. The real lesson need to think about is we know all that virtuous woman is. A lot of us have been memorized if we hadn't. Our wives or our mothers have ingrained it in us so that we'd understand. So, we understand that. But then we also see that there is another woman. In contrast, this woman is described in chapter 7. This kind of woman is not a virtuous woman. What kind of woman is she? Let's just say she doesn't have any virtue. She's an adulterous woman. She is a harlot, basically. And it describes her name is folly or foolishness. And basically, it is the exact opposite of the virtuous woman. It is one who is an adulterous woman. It is one who, what kind of truth does she give? None. She lies. She doesn't just tell a lie. It describes her as being deceitful, manipulative, so that you don't even see the non-truth in it or whatever. So the wisdom of man named Folly, this woman named Folly, is this adulterous woman who does not speak the truth. Instead, she's very deceitful. She is not hardworking. Instead, she is idle. What do you think Solomon talks about idle hands and all those things? Because it brings trouble. She's idle. If anything, she doesn't produce anything or give anything to society. What does she do? She's a taker. She takes what you give her, what you get from her. She manipulates to get. Okay? She too sells her wares on the street. It's not the same kind. It's not stuff she's whatever. So there's the contrast when you look at wisdom of man, wisdom of God, made into individuals. Solomon using this described two totally opposite type of women. One is a godly woman, one is an ungodly woman. Guys, so as we look at this today, that's the contrast that we want to be thinking about, and that's the example or illustration or metaphor or personification or any one of those English terms you want to pick we're talking about. Alright? So, let's go into the verses we read. Starting verse 20 through 23, we start talking about wisdom calls out in the street. Okay? So, God's wisdom is there. It's not hidden, is it? No. It's readily available. It's right there in the street. As a matter of fact, she's out pleading with us in our daily lives. See, God's wisdom is not something you have to go find in a book in an obsolete library or whatever. You don't have to go there. It's laid out before us. It describes it as being in the public square. What takes place in the public square? All your trading and selling and business and whatever. Everything comes to the square. If you think of the times back then, before we had Walmart and grocery stores, I mean, even in Cuba, we still see it. And whatever, there's a street, and on Saturday you can't drive through because there are so many people just packed there, swapping hogs' heads for chickens, for whatever. It's the marketplace. It's the public square. That's where everybody comes together. So it's saying in the businesses or whatever, God's wisdom's there. It's screaming out how to live your life. Not only that, he goes on to say it's not just in the public squares, it's in the noisy streets. Who lives in the noisy streets? Everybody. You know, you live on that street, they live on that street, the kids are running up down the streets playing, and you know, all these things that happen and whatever. And so in our busy, bustling lives, God has a wisdom that's screaming out to be heard. It's there. We just got to be listening. And the last illustration is the city gates. What happens at the city gates? It's the courthouse. It's the courthouse. That's where if you got a problem with your neighbor, you and your neighbor come there and sit down in front of the elders. That's where that term came from. To the elders who are supposed to be wiser because they're older. That's where older and elder come together. Doesn't mean they are. Sometimes we're not. But supposed to be, and collectively as a group, then it normally accomplishes that. That's why it's plural and never singular. And so you come before them, and if you got a question or a debate, and you want it solved, who's right and who's wrong, because sometimes there really are legitimate arguments that somebody has to make a settlement on. And they go to the city gates, and that's where most arguments are handled. If that doesn't work, where do they go? Who said cut the baby in half? The king. They couldn't settle it at the city's gate, so they sent it to the king, and then the king always makes a decision. And I like it, but it's final. It's the Supreme Court. Okay? Our case is God. But anyway, so here we got the idea that even in the places of judgment, in the places where everybody governing takes place and all that stuff, God has a wisdom and a way of living that is screaming out to be heard and done in a certain way. Okay? He goes on to say, but man, what does man do? They don't listen to wisdom. They don't listen to those thoughts and the rebukes that come from God's wisdom, but instead, it goes on to say that we love, verse 22. How long will you simple ones love your simple ways? What is simple ones loving simple ways? What are you talking about there? Stupid. Okay. Pretty blunt. Without really thinking about it, they just kind of go through life. Okay. Really, it is people who are not necessarily uneducated because they could be educated. It's just the idea of naivety is the word I wrote there. It's another word that they use is the one person grows up and then immaturity. Just kind of not thinking about things, just doing. All those things. It's just that kind of thing. They really don't really think about where life's going and what they're supposed to accomplish or anything. They're naive. And so he's saying here that some people don't listen. Instead, they love just being naive, simple, drifting through life, stupid, whatever. They just like it. They're just happy with that and content with that. Okay? He goes on to say that some people just delight in arrogance. They just like being haughty and proud and confident in themselves and nobody else. They're satisfied with that. They don't care about anything else. And then others, they just hate true knowledge or wisdom.
I was going to say they have knowledge and they just don't have wisdom.
Yeah. And I wrote the word true in there because it's in that context of what he's doing there, he's talking about, the knowledge that is properly used. And we talked about, I think previously, a couple weeks ago, we talked about sometimes our knowledge, our knowledge sometimes gets in the way of faith in God because we get to a point that we love knowledge, we just don't love true knowledge and how to apply it the way God says. Instead, we think we got it all figured out on our own. And we go around, I'm smart. Anyway, so these are the folks that reject that calling out. Even though it's all around us and God is there, it's not hard to find out how God wants us to live. It goes on the next few verses, verse 24 through 29, it says, you need to pay attention or take notice because here's what's going to happen. When he does that, he says, I reached out to you, wisdom, the virtuous woman, this wisdom reached out to you, but instead you did not choose to fear who? The Lord. Chose not to fear the Lord because you see, wisdom and godly wisdom, good wisdom and godly wisdom is always connected to God. And instead, they refuse to fear the Lord, refuse to respect Him and what He has to say and who He is. And because of that, which we talked about that last week, because of that, here's what He's going to do. He says, I'm going to reject, here's what you do because you didn't do it. You rejected my call. Wisdom's calling out in the streets and all these places, instead you rejected it. You didn't give any heed or pay any attention. You refused when He stretched out His hand. Wisdom's trying to give us a helping hand. We refuse it. Okay? We ignore the advice. Why? Because we have our own version of wisdom and knowledge. We want to use it instead of the true wisdom that they're talking about here. Would not accept rebuke. How many of us like rebuke? Correction. No? Anybody ever had a job and had your boss kind of calm you down and say, look, you can't do that. If you do that, this is going to happen. That's not a good thing for us if you can't do that. I'm sorry, the problem's not the boss. It is something that we need to recognize. That is something we don't do in our business or whatever for the business to survive, to do well. So we turn around and change the way we're doing things. Okay, it's the same thing in life here. When God, through His wisdom, rebukes us. Sometimes it's a Do it that way, because when you do, it ain't going to work out well. Instead, a lot of times we don't pay any attention because we don't like correction and rebuke, and then what happens? Fall in the ditch, don't we? I told you there was a flash flood coming. Don't go that way. I can drive right through it. That's kind of the idea when it talks to wisdom. We ignore it. We just drive right through the problems that God said don't do that. So therefore, that's what we do by ignoring Him and refusing to fear Him. And He goes on to say after that, then here's what God in His wisdom is going to do. Is He going to say, oh, I'm sorry that you fell in that ditch and life didn't turn out the way you wanted? Nope. God said, or the wisdom of God says, I'll turn and laugh at your disaster and make fun of you or mock when calamity overtakes you. In other words, I told you so. That's basically what wisdom's going to scream back at you. I told you it was going to happen, didn't I? Isn't that what happens every time you do ignore what you really ought to do, the way you ought to be, and then you get into a bind and you come back and you go, yeah, I should have done that. It's even worse when your wife tells you to do that, and then it comes back on you, and she will tell you. Just one. I told you so. All she has to do is hit the button. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. Anyway. Exactly. That's exactly it, guys. Just put your nose on. All right. Anyway, you understand the point. And so basically, wisdom is going to say, hey, I'm going to laugh at it because you asked for it. You knew what you was getting into, and this is what you chose anyway. And then it's going to go even further than that. It says, I will call, you're going to call out for me. In other words, I'm in the ditch now, and I need help. Get me out, Lord. How many times do we forget to call the Lord until after the Twin Towers collapse? You know? I mean, in my lifetime, you have to go back several wars back in time or whatever before this country really turned back to Him. You know, during World War II, we turned and looked toward God. The whole world turns looking for God. And then it just kind of drifted away and away, and our country we went about our own ways and getting richer and self-sufficient and happier and all these different things. And then suddenly something happened, you know, on September 11th that woke us all up. You know, last time that happened was Pearl Harbor. You know, and so it just woke us all up. And I remember at that time how many people were just turning back to God. They were talking about how the churches were suddenly starting filling back up and people were coming there or whatever. Why? Because in our calamities and our disasters, we start screaming to someone to get me out of the ditch. And that's what He's saying. That wisdom is going to say, this is what's going to happen after you get in this disaster or whatever. Then you're going to call. Then you're going to look for me. The problem is, at that time, I won't answer. I won't be able to be found because you pushed me so far away that you don't even know where to go. And in reality, that renaissance or that restoration, that return or whatever, a lot of that's been lost in the last 15 years. And however our country is and all the way it's behaving, it's even worse than it was before in many, many ways. And so what happens is we didn't, even when we screamed to get back out of the ditch and try to find an answer, we didn't know where to go. Most people didn't know where to go. And that's what it's saying there. It goes on in verses 30 and 32 and says, here's what you need to do. Reject that woman, that adulterous woman. Reject that woman named folly or foolishness. Reject the wisdom of man. Because you see, the schemers, they're going to be full. They're going to be filled with the fruit of their actions. They scheme to get through life and do this and do that, and instead, what they're going to get their fill. What is it? What goes around comes around. They're going to get it. It's not what they had in mind, but they're going to get it. In addition to that, the waywardness of the simple or the naive is going to kill them. The ones that just kind of drift through and go, going to end up killing them or destroying them. Because you're just not going to pay attention to the important things, and things are just going to happen. The complacency of fools will destroy them. See, one who is complacent is foolish. That's what happened to us in World War II, when Pearl Harbor bombed. We were complacent. Nobody messed with us. Japan's halfway across the world. And all of a sudden, December 7th, boom. Where did that come from? How did that happen? Even Japan, the general who wrote in Japan said they wanted the sleeping giant because we were asleep. Powerful. Nobody's going to mess with us. And where did that come from? And that's kind of the way it is with a fool. They can be complacent and it ends up in destruction. Okay, so we need to reject that. Reject foolishness, reject this adulterous woman, this wisdom of man. Instead, we need to choose the wisdom of God, the virtuous woman. We look at chapter 31. She's worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings good, not harm, all the days of her life. Think of all those things. That's what wisdom is. It brings good things. I mean, life, as we talked about, is because of sin. We talked about that earlier in the quarter, whatever. Is full of problems. This doesn't get rid of those. What it does is say how you deal with those is going to impact how you're going to survive your life in this world and in the next. And instead, you will have good things come out of those in some form or fashion because you trusted in the wisdom of God. Back in verses we was reading, verse 30. Whoever listens to this wisdom will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. Because ultimately, most of the things that, who's our worst enemy? We are. So what it's saying is all the things that you can bring havoc on your own life are not there. Sure, life brings problems and trials. It's not talking about those. It's talking about the ones you bring upon yourself. You can eliminate those and have ease, and your mind can be at peace. And then the verse we didn't read, which the writer really never even brought to bear here, is actually at the the 7th verse of chapter 1. Back at the beginning, when he introduces the entire book about what this wisdom is. It says in verse 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, or understanding, or application, or wisdom. But fools despise wisdom and discipline. So right here at the very beginning, Solomon's laying it out. There's two things. There's the wisdom that has a knowledge of the fear of the Lord, and that wisdom is in contrast to that of the one that the fool follows. The question is, which one is it? Well, if somebody comes up to you and said, hey, here's some good wisdom and here's the wisdom from a fool. How many says, hey, I'll take the wisdom of a fool? Nobody. But you see, that woman comes disguised and sneaking in there and deceitful and all that. So you've got to be aware of what's going on. And it's best by seeing what they bring. You know? Adulterous woman's taken. Virtuous woman's bringing. So is it giving or taking? What's going on here? Whatever. And there's most of the time where you can see. Because everything goes back once again to God, who is selfless, and man, who is selfish. So it's really about the giving and the taking. All right. I want to jump here to the New Testament, which is what I've tried to do throughout this. I remember this phrase: "You You have heard it said, but I say unto you. Where's that found? 5, 6, and 7. Yep. 5, 6, and 7. Interestingly enough, Jesus did this exact same thing in that entire sermon. You have heard it said, what the adulterous woman keeps telling you, what the wisdom of man keeps telling you, what this foolishness is all about. But I'm going to tell you what the wisdom of God is saying and what God is all about. And they're two totally different contrasts. And the reality is, when we read it, we look at it, we call it a paradox a lot of times. Because the things of the wisdom of man makes sense. The wisdom of God doesn't always. Why? What does the adulterous woman do? Tell you the truth? And she doesn't just lie, she deceives. You say, we've been deceived by the wisdom of man. It's smooth, it sneaks in there, it convinces us of all these different ways that it really ought to be. Jesus said no. Now, just because it says that doesn't mean you've been taught that doesn't make it right. As a matter of fact, the reality is a lot of their priests, their teachers, these Pharisees, the teachers of the law were saying the same old stuff. He said, I'm saying it's not right. Okay? He says, you got a choice here. We talked about that a week or two ago. You got two ways. Narrow way. The wide way. You got two ways. You got two different philosophies or wisdoms or direction or to follow. God or the world, man, or Jesus. So here we are, and Jesus is telling us to choose the narrow way because it leads to where? Life. And now what Solomon was saying? Well, stay out of the ditch and you don't want to end up in destruction? Follow after the ways of God. Listen to what He has to say. Fear Him and His wisdom. Put it in that knowledge into application the way He says to. And Jesus turns around and He starts off with the Beatitude. He says, you're blessed in spite of what the world says. Because you go through those Beatitudes, every one of them you go, I don't know. And the world says you need to have this. He contrasts that and says, just because the world is going to beat you up to do all this, you're really blessed. You can really find true contentment, true happiness. He says, you've heard it said, do not murder. What does God say? Don't be angry. Don't hate. Don't judge. I mean, you go down through that list or whatever. It's a totally different thing. The way man says we're to be. Some people just deserve it. I'm sorry, maybe they do, but that's not our place. And God pretty much points it out. So the bottom line is, from our standpoint, see, God says, neither do you. So we don't do it from that. Instead, He says, not hate, don't be angry, don't judge. Stay out of that. You've heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I say to you, don't lust. Don't lust. Don't wonder. Don't think about it. You've heard it said, an eye for an eye. You deserved it. Punch him back. He asked for it. Well, I say unto you, what does God say? What does the wisdom of God say? Turn the other cheek. Do not resist an evil person. Wow, that's a hard thing to say or even comprehend. Sure we need to. I need to do that. That's all He says. It's for government to take care of. Don't resist an evil person. As a matter of fact, you're going to love your self. Neighbor. Yeah. And the enemy. Even the enemy. Love your enemies. You know how hard that was for a Jew? The whole world was their enemies. You know what I mean? It didn't matter where they went, they hated everybody, and everybody hated them. That's basically the life that they had created. Instead of showing them God's love for humanity, they had gone throughout the world and showed how they were different from them, and because of that, they created animosity where they went, because they spit and looked down on everybody else because they thought they had something from somebody else. That sound like us? See, our All right. You have heard it said, work really hard, build big barns, and you'll be successful. But God says to you, His wisdom is what? Don't worry about tomorrow. I'll take care of itself. I don't know how it turned out. Tell Mary Beth, tomorrow's another day. Worry about today. Today's got enough problems of its own. Just take care of today and what you got to do. Don't worry about it. You know, too many times we get caught up in trying to build that bigger barn that nest egg so we can be content in our retirement. Tell me about it. I'm 60. I'm doing those same things. Then what happens? I've got to build bigger barns. He died and his wife was off with somebody else living in those bigger barns.
Paul Harvey, that's good.
That's the other side of the story. I mean, have you not seen that happen in life? Yes. God said, don't worry about all that. It'll take care of itself. Work hard. He never said don't work. He never said lay down, don't do nothing. You know, we just talked about idleness. And what he did say was, do what? Absolutely. He says, if you're not, you deserve to starve. God tells us. So that's not the point. The point is, don't make it your all-consuming thing in order to accomplish and take care of yourself. Because this is really about who you're going to trust to provide for you. He says, God will take care of you. Brother Boyd always used to say, I've never seen the righteous begging bread. He always quoted that. I've never seen the righteous begging bread. And when he said it all those years, he was right. I mean, he'd say in his life, he could confirm that. I always thought that was you have heard it said to stop taking from others. But I'm saying, ask, and it'll be given to you. A lot of times we're too busy trying to take and step on others to get where we want. Remember that selfish part of us? We're trying to accomplish and get these things and take what we can get so that our life will be what we want it to be. And God says, that's not that. Wisdom says you don't have to be reaching out trying to get it from somewhere. Instead, ask and it will be given to you. Does that mean He's going to give me $1 million or we'll win the lottery? No, that's not what He's saying. He goes on to say, He gives you what? When I ask for a snake, what's He going to give me? Good things. He's going to give me a fish. He's not going to give me a snake. He knows that's bad for me. God gives us good things. All right. So that's to choose the narrow way that leads to life. Choose the wisdom of God. Choose the virtuous woman. Choose, through all these analogies, choose to follow the ways that God, who created us as a spirit before He put us in a body that He created, and before He did all of those things, He knows what it takes for us to be successful. Not necessarily successful as defined by others, but successful, true success. That's what He knows, so trust in Him and choose His way and reject the wide way that leads to destruction. Okay? Any other thoughts, comments? This was kind of an introductory class in the Proverbs, or lesson in the Proverbs, trying to show the wisdom of God and how important it is. Next week, we're going to take a look at some of that wisdom that God dishes out. And so we're going to look at the next chapter in the book, which is lesson number, read it, lesson number 8, the value of wisdom. Take it Proverbs 3 and some other places or whatever. All right, thank you very much.